Okay, we're now going to do problem 7-16A, and that's on page 431. And this problem, you're kind of having to work backwards, but what you're asked to do here is, first of all, to calculate the contribution margin ratio. So in the problem, you are given the sales that you need to break even. You're provided with that, and you're provided with your fixed expenses of $30,000. So what you have to do is calculate what the contribution margin ratio should be. So the way we do this is we are going to, first of all, you want to get the unknown, or the information that you're trying to calculate, on one side of the equation. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So I want to see contribution margin ratio on one side. So it's just a bit of algebra to get us there. So what we're going to do first is we're going to multiply both sides by contribution margin percentage. So here then we'll cross out these two. So then you have 40,000 times your CM ratio equals 30,000. And this little guy needs to go up here, and I better erase it. So then what you want to do, you want to divide both sides by 40,000, because remember, we're trying to get contribution margin on one side of this equation. So contribution margin, so this is where we come up with contribution margin is your 30,000 divided by your 40,000, which is 75. So 0.75 is your contribution margin ratio. So that's just showing you the algebra as to how we arrived at that. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to identify the operating income. So now that we have the contribution margin ratio calculated, we want to calculate our operating income. So essentially these are the missing pieces that we're looking for. So when you're looking at coming up with a certain ratio, you need to remember you have sales. Your sales is going to be 100%. Variable cost ratio, we don't know what that is, or we're not giving it, but we've calculated our contribution margin ratio is 75%. So that means the variable cost must be 25%. Okay? So sales will be 100, and we just calculated contribution to be 75, so variable cost must be 25. So now that we know that our variable costs must be 25% of sales, and we know what our total variable cost is, we can then use those two pieces of information to calculate the sales revenue. So what you're doing here is you've got your 40,000 equals to 25% times your revenue, your sales revenue. And what we want to do here is, of course, we are trying to get that 25 on one side of our equation. So we're going to divide by 25, and we're dividing this one by 25. So 40,000 divided by the 25% will equal the 160,000. So that's just showing you the algebra as to how we got there. So if you want to kind of prove that works, and to show how it works, that's just another way of calculating it. Obviously you're going to come up with the same answer. So now now that you know your sales revenue, 160,000 is what we just calculated. The variable cost is 40, contribution margin 120. Fixed expenses, we're given that in the problem. So your operating income is $90,000. So at that level of operation, when your revenue is 160, your operating income is $90,000. And that concludes E7-16.